All right, welcome back. Emmanuel Sanders this week went on television and said that AB is completely wrong here, but he also took a shot at Ben Roethlisberger's leadership. So, Ron, I want to ask you about Emmanuel Sanders, pretty honest guy from what I know, and I always liked him when he was around here. When he left, he took a little snide shot also saying that Peyton Manning outworks Ben, which is why he ended up going to Denver. Your take on what he said?
Well, everybody's entitled to their opinion, and I don't think he's alone out there. I think a lot of people look at Ben and see a guy that maybe isn't the greatest leader in the locker room. Others will tell you he is. Ask his offensive linemen if they love him and think he's a great leader. I'm not surprised that one of the young money guys would. This isn't about Ben, though. The story's about Antonio walking out on his team. There's no way you can justify that in any way, even if Ben isn't the greatest leader. And I heard Sanders say, well, he calls out his teammates. He called out James Washington, Antonio. Well, after he called out James Washington, he had his 3 or 4 best games of the year. Good leadership, bad leadership. I think the one thing Ben might regret saying at the Denver game, I wish we'd have thrown it to Juju 4 times. I'm sure Antonio took that wrong, but my personal feeling is the quarterback's tired of him running the wrong routes, losing interest, losing focus, pouting on the field. I think he's tired of it.
And obviously, I mean, you just look at the end of the year, the fact that Ben's only been named MVP 1 time, that shows you he doesn't have a ton of love in that. And these guys are all grown men. They need to be accountable. And the fact that, once again, here's another guy who's blaming issues on Antonio Brown, on Ben Roethlisberger, or Mike Tomlin, or whomever else. The issues are with 84. The issues are not with 7 or the head coach. Ben Roethlisberger is Ben Roethlisberger. He's a great quarterback. He may not be the nicest guy ever. Who cares? He doesn't show that on the field. He doesn't. In fact, if anything, he threw more to Antonio and forced the ball to him to try to get him touches.
Exactly.
You know, so I don't see how Roethlisberger is dragged into this whole thing about lack of leadership, or it's his fault because AB acts this way. No, it's not. It's AB's.
You step out of this city, though, and a lot of people do believe a lot of it is with that.
Because they don't know. They don't know. They sit in New York or in Boston or wherever they are, and they say that they know what's going on in the Steeler room, and they have no idea.
But somebody's talking. Somebody's letting this out, saying that he, bends this, bends that, and bends whatever it's about, and that's why it's getting turned this way. But you know what? I'm pretty sure what Roethlisberger did with Antonio Brown is every once in a while he did have to call him out because he wouldn't listen any other way. And if you think about it, every time he did call him out, even it was on Ron's show or wherever it was, he got in line for a couple weeks to a month after that before he started swaying outside of the line. So I think a lot of that with AB, where Ben just felt, I have no other way to get to him but to embarrass him in some sort right here. Maybe some people don't believe that, but trying to mix those two together is just flat out wrong of what AB did and what is Ben's fault.
I want to get to another topic because they've made some coaching changes. Joey Porter, I didn't understand James Saxon. Jeff, I want to ask you about Mike Munchak, who apparently is not under contract right now. I don't know how that ever happened in the first place. He went out to interview for the head coach in Denver, didn't get it, but Denver might want him in another capacity and give him a little promotion to do it. What must the Steelers do to keep him? Because I think they should have had this all wrapped up already. What's your take?
I don't know why he wasn't a priority in the offseason. I mean, obviously they have other issues. We've been discussing it for the last couple of minutes. But, making sure you lock up a guy that is generally respected throughout the league, not just in that room, but he's beloved by his linemen. Roethlisberger talks about him all the time and the impact that he brings to this team. How Mike Munchak is not locked up. And if it's a money issue, then shame on the Rooneys if this is a money issue. I mean, it should just be a check. Here, what do you want? I'll sign it.
I'm not sure it is a money issue, Jeff. I did a big piece on Munchak late in the season, and he told me how blessed he was to spend his whole career as a player and coach with the Oilers/Titans. He didn't want to move his family around 2 years here, 2 years there, 2 years here. And he said, my daughters have grown up now. I don't have an excuse anymore. Well, guess where one of his daughters lives? Denver. And he said they just had a grandchild in Denver. His wife spent much of the offseason in Denver. He said, I was back and forth to Denver seeing my grandchild. I think if he has an opportunity and something he likes, I won't be the bit surprised if he takes it.
But, knowing how much these coaches actually time they put in, I don't know how much time he's going to have to go see the grandson if he's out, or the grandkid out in Denver. But I agree with Jeff. I don't know how they even get to this point, especially a potential lateral move where if he does go from offensive line coach to offensive line coach, how this is even permitted by the Steelers, as in saying he's locked up how many years until, unless it's a head coaching job. I think that's just something the Steelers didn't really work out, didn't think ahead. So I think it's blaming on them. And as you said, if it's about money, Jeff, it's about money. It's always about money. If you throw some cash at him, make him the assistant head coach, I don't know if anybody would want to pick up and move across country, even if your family is out there, and knowing how close this team is to winning. And that's the big thing. How close is the Broncos to winning to the Steelers winning? This is big for Munchak to get a Super Bowl. He's never won one. So maybe he believes that it's a better chance in Denver. I don't know.
All right, now it's time to go around the horn for this week's Smooth Moves, brought to you by Pittsburgh's largest supplier of the smoothest granite, marble, and quartz countertops. That would be Armina Stone. So we ask these guys, smooth move of the week. It doesn't have to be local. It could be national. Let's start with you, Mark. Top to bottom, what's your smooth move of the week?
Well, we were just talking about coaching changes. I think a smooth move by the Steelers was bringing in Terrell Austin and label him as a secondary assistant. Well, we know darn well he's a head defensive coordinator in waiting here. One more poor season, mess up by Keith Butler, and they got the replacement right on staff right here. So I think it was a smooth move for them to slide him in here right now, calling him a secondary coach when we all know what he really is.
That's funny you mentioned that, Mark. It's not my smooth move, but I wrote about Keith Butler for tomorrow's PG, and I think he's getting screwed here with getting all the blame for these defensive problems, so that's just me. I don't think he had good players to work with. My smooth move, I'm a Tom Brady man. He did it again. I know we're going to talk about the NFL games. I love what the guy's doing. He's the GOAT, no question. I don't look at him as a cheater. I just look at him as the greatest of all time. One more feather in his cap today.
Terrell Austin, Mercer County man, gotta love that. But I'll go with Michael Thomas. 12 catches, 171 yards, by the best receiver in the NFL.
Yeah, you can argue that for sure. 125, 75 of those for first are on third down conversions. Pretty good stuff. Mine goes to Connor Granlund from Arizona, the Coyotes. He got hit in the face with a puck. He scored that way, went in the net. Had to take like 30 stitches. Did an interview, came back, scored again with all that stitch work in his face. That's a smooth move, and those are our smooth moves of the week, brought to you by Armina Stone, who features Pittsburgh's largest indoor stone gallery of granite and marble countertops imported from all over the world to give you the smoothest countertops in the area. Score a touchdown right now with Armina Stone and their countertops. We have more coming up next. Don't go away.